7 episodes in, this kit continues to test me. It is very important for me not to go through the other side, which I did just now. This video comes to you in cooperation with PCBWay, ICM and MRP paints. The next piece to deal with is the horizontal element of the tail. Here again, the location pins are not exactly brilliantly made, and I suppose I will have to drill out the holes a little bit. It is very important for me not to go through the other side, which I did just now. Nice. Let's see if at least this helped with the fit. How difficult could it be to make the pins and the holes match? And with our connection points properly matched, I will start gluing around, and I will begin with the trailing edge, which is the hardest to deal with once done, especially given all the surface detail that we have here. In the next step, I have to assemble the tail end of the helicopter. I want to see if I can mount this without mounting the horizontal stabilizers. But first I need to take care of some joints here and a panel line lost in the process. But I'm not going to bother you with the filling and sanding. The hole that I accidentally drilled through the horizontal stabilizer will be easily filled with a piece of stretch sprue. The goal here is to start with a tight fit and then weld everything together with some Mr. Cement SP and leave it be for a while. After the sanding of the seam filling, there are a few things that I need to do. One of them is to address the hole that I did. And the other business is to reinstate a couple of panel lines that I'm going to do with Tamiya's Finecraft saw. I'm going to sand the edges a little bit, clean the panel line, and finally I will give it a once over with some Mr. Cement to clean off the rest of the dust inside the panel line, and that will be it for this panel line. The others are right here at the edge, at the leading edge of the horizontal stabilizer. This may be a small detail, but such small details are what make it a real difference between models and their modelers, in my very humble opinion. I'm also reinstating the panel line that I interrupted with the filling of the hole, which will make it even more invisible after some paint goes over this area. And with these tedious jobs out of the way, I think we can start putting the details in place. Now, is this going to fit? Let's see. Should I push it until something breaks, or we can conclude that it doesn't fit? I don't know. You tell me. Now, like a Japanese carpenter, I will have to make a joint that is worth its weight in gold. Is it even possible with this kit? It's still not fully in. You can see here we have quite a large lip. Maybe some more delicate woodworking will be needed. You see here we have a tooth that needs to go behind this plastic thing and to lock it in place. And if this doesn't happen, then we don't have the fit we want. So sometimes things work very nicely in the parametric modeling softwares, but more often than not this does not translate as well in the real world. However, some basic modeling skills, as some internet pundits would say, can solve many issues. Now let's put the tail section in place, and would you look at that? Is this a Tamiya kit? No, but it is just as good. Yes.
This video is sponsored by PCBWay. Most of you know them for custom PCBs, but they also offer professional 3D printing services. Whether you are after a resin, SLS or even metal parts, PCBWay delivers high precision results perfect for model building or custom tools. Uploading your design is easy. Just head to their website, choose your material and get an instant quote. No back and forth, no surprises. If you are into customizing your builds or prototyping parts, definitely check them out. Link is in the description.
Parts C55 and C54 form the radar housing on the front end of the helicopter. They are really nicely detailed, very fine ribs, which I have no idea what purpose they have, but they are there. The fit is good. Here I have absolutely nothing to complain about, and there we have it. This part is ready. Now part B10 is actually the nose of the helicopter, and parts D26 and D25 are some sort of sensors. The fit is okay here. We'll have a bit of a gap, but some acrylic putty should make the filling of this gap somewhat easier. Now that I have the radome properly ready, I removed the seam lines. I have to point out that one of those ribs here is very poorly developed. As you can see, it is barely visible. The rest are pretty prominent. I doubt this is how it is supposed to be. Another thing is this gouge here. It's only on one side. No idea how it is supposed to be, but now let's test the fit between the radome and the nose. It won't sit under its own authority, but otherwise I think it is fitting quite decently, and the joint gaps are rather respectable. Now let's mount the nose on the helicopter, and I think the way that it fits is very good. A note to myself and everybody else building this kit: it will be beneficial to paint the nose part because it's somewhat visible inside the cockpit. The next piece to install is this rather large one. And as you can see, it just fits perfectly. I cannot help but wonder if this kit was designed by different people who never talk to each other. I don't know. A lot of issues in some areas. Everything is fine in other areas. How this happens, I have no idea. But most definitely, this thing here, I like very much. In the next step, we're about to install the windshield, but I remembered that some of these Black Hawk helicopters had the green tinted upper windows. However, as it is obvious here, the Night Stalker version at least has transparent windows, which means that I'm not going to put the green tint on. However, something that ICM omitted is a little bit of curved panel here on top of the left hand side window, and I'll show you the masking templates, which do not take this into account. This mask should be something like that, and this area here should be painted. So I will rework my masks and do it as this is supposed to be. But that will come after I install the windshield. Now, to prepare the windshield for installation, here we have a mold split line that I'm not sure, but it may be a detriment for the installation, so I will carefully scrape that off. Alright, now let's attack the assembly. The fit is very reasonable, so I don't have complaints here. There is a little bit of a gap right here at the corner, but if I apply some pressure on top, it kind of disappears. So I will add some glue or cement, if you are speaking technically, and I will apply some pressure, and when this sets, I will apply the glue on the lower side. The instructions call for 2 other pieces to be mounted in this step, and these fan faces fit, I would say, perfectly. is so refreshing when something fits like that. This step of the instructions suggests to install the cockpit doors right now, but I will install only one of them. The main reason is because of these seams that I got while I had issues with the belly detail, but also this may provide an opportunity to make the model less symmetric and less uniform. So there we have it. One of the doors is going to get shut. Actually, all of the doors here are going to get shut, and all of the doors on the other side are going to be open. Next up, we get to assemble the engine exhaust components. Now those I will sort of assemble, not all the way through, because I will apply some metallic color like burnt iron on this part. Granted, this is suited to a black color on most pictures I have seen, but still it will be a nice thing to have, a little bit of metal showing through. Although I might try to give it some dry brushing with a graphite powder, which will probably give even better results. Let's see how will this go. Now here, despite all the tabs being in position, we have this not so good fit. There is some lip here, and these are not super nice, but let's see how the other parts will fit. Now I'm really struggling to understand this assembly. According to this step, correct me if I'm wrong, but those two parts need to assemble in something like this. Not that there is any way to do that. I see no attachment point here other than a flimsy butt joint. So here we have an indentation and a corresponding protrusion on the other piece, which looks like should go here. So maybe I should assemble this first and then find the correct position for the other piece. Part B21 is supposed to be installed in the next step, but I will install it before so that I can test how this will fit on the actual model. Here we have a notch that corresponds to a tap, so the orientation is mostly fixed. Although this build is starting to burn me out a bit too early, it is still worth putting the extra effort in certain areas so that I can be proud of my work later on. And as usual, small details like this make all the difference. Apparently, this piece here needs to overhang from the exhaust pipe, which we all know who have seen a Black Hawk, but it is not obvious from the instructions. So here on this part we have a tap which is not really that visible, and here we have where to insert it. Now, is this the proper way with this gap here? I'm willing to accept this as the proper way. As you can see, the gap is not existing in the inside, so I'll take advantage of that and glue the part more stably. And let's put this piece inside, and later I will think about the dry brushing and painting. I don't think it will be an issue whatsoever. As you can see, we have tabs and the corresponding indentations, so all fits nicely. I would like to thank all the amazing people who support me on Patreon. You guys are awesome! I most definitely need to buy some new Mr. Cement Deluxe. I had this for many years. This exhaust outlet would have been nicer to have it drilled out, so if you are not building yours out of the box, I would recommend that. Next, we get to install parts C66 and C67, and the instructions fail to explain something that I will show you right now. Here we have a nice indentation that one may rightfully think that it is supposed to host this detail at the front. However, there is actually a gap that is supposed to exist. How do I know this? Well, a quick Google search of the Black Hawk induction system shows that thing exactly. So I would like to see some better explanations in the instructions. Next up, I'm going to apply some black primer in areas where I might have a see-through issues, and also where I will have difficulties painting when the following assemblies are attached. Some areas will receive a metallizer coat, and for this, first I'm going to apply a gloss varnish. With the gloss coat completely cured, it is time for the metallizer. While the paints are curing, I am going to clean up the contact surfaces that I have covered with primer. Not that it is super necessary, but kinda having some time to kill, so these engine cowling pieces fit very nicely together, and some effort has been made to simulate some volume. Right here on the real aircraft we have a passage. This does somewhat good of a job mimicking this. Before I go any further and close this area off, I would like to add a little bit of filler right here on this gap, but from the inside. And for this task I'm going to use some plastic glue, and for those of you who don't know what this is, it is simply sprue material melted in plastic cement. Here you can see where it gets its name from, because it's gooey. Now let's install the exhausts in their respective positions. These plates that we use to mount the exhaust on fit very nicely in the slots on the cockpit, so this is all nice. Next up we get to mount this top section, and in this rear area it fits very well, transitions nicely into the tail boom. Now check how things will go a little bit forward. As it is usual, small steps. I'm not trying to glue the whole thing in one go. I take my time and go around trying to figure out if there will be any obstacles and how can I avoid them. As I mentioned before, I try not to squeeze out the glue from the joints. Sometimes it happens, but I would rather not have it go out. Here we have these grooves that host the bulkheads on the engine bay, and on this side they fit real nice. Now all of this had enough time for the glue to cure, so now I can be more confident putting pressure where that is needed in order to fix these seams together. And the first one, of course, is going to be easier because there will be less fighting against me. This angle right here requires the most amount of force to get right, or possibly right. We'll see when I apply overall primer. Now there is a slight gap right here between these two parts, and it will need to be fixed. Is this going to work? Not really. No. Apply the pressure with my fingers. The cement is not capable enough to hold these together, so in this case I'm going to reinforce the joint with some CA glue. Now let's install the engine cowlings. They slot in nicely, but as you can see there will be some additional work required. But I guess this is an issue for another day. Here I had to do some adjustments and I got somewhere, but still I have to push the parts together and I still have some gap, and also The front end of the intake is at an offset, but I will deal with this later. I think about 25-30 minutes messing around, shaving fractions of a millimeter is enough to try and make the fit better. Well, when there is no other way around it, files will have to do. And this is how far I'm willing to go before I apply another coat of primer to show me what's in need for some more work. But in general, I think it will look okay. Now let's move on. Next up, I'm going to assemble, but instead of assembling them first and then putting the sub-assemblies on the model, I will put them on the model first, one by one, so I can make a bit of a better judgment how they should fit. And there is some resistance, but I think we're already used to that. So I'll glue this part first, let it cure for a little bit, and then we'll move to the other part, which will need a bit more persuasion. While waiting, I will put the other one. Which for some reason is real. These sounds are not very good because they usually mean that something is broken, but if it needs to be, so be it. There is some sort of a notch inside of here which doesn't really fit all that well, or at least as I suppose intended. So a portion of it I will remove. Somewhat better, but not enough. There was a total misalignment between these two pieces, so I went ahead and broke this one off. Basic modeling skills, right? Now I will glue this piece back in so that we have a better fit, and maybe this is how it was supposed to be done, not as the instructions suggested. But on this side I'm going to use CA glue to join the two parts together. Despite the rather large gap right now, I think the fit here is a little bit better. As of why this is happening, it's either I'm a terrible modeler, or maybe this kit is too ambitious, too many parts, and the execution of the cut design is not exactly perfect. Pop. Let's try again. Here we are not supposed to have a joint at all, so I will do the sanding before I start attaching more fragile stuff. Alright, this looks better. The black line is actually the super glue. All is smooth. Once again, the final story will be told by the primer, but that's to come. Now here we have to mount this upper exhaust detail.
To get the latest updates, join me on Patreon. Link I will leave in the description.
I have glued only this one because first I would like to make this joint happen, and then as you can see we have some movement which is not really appreciated, but once I glue this piece I will deal with the rest. You know the game. Okay. On the other side I found this piece just flying around in the box, and apparently one of the brackets is broken. I couldn't find it, so I'll have to scratch build something, and I'll have to change my assembly slightly. It appears that we have some fastener-like detail here that connects the upper and the lower part together, which is nice touch. Back on this side, some pressure. I hope not much will ooze out. Alright, now I'll have to figure something out for here. I think that a strip of balsa wood will be very fitting.
I think this episode is already long enough, so we will continue the assembly in the next one. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, happy modeling, fellas!